Good evening and welcome. Tonight we'll be going over the history and geography of Papua New Guinea. We'll look at its geography and then history, and then we're going to flip through this book, which is actually a fantastic book. I think this is my favorite one that we've flipped through for countries so far because there's so many wonderful pictures in this book of some of the incredible people and scenery and everything. You can even see some down here. These are men from the Thule tribe, and there's even one on the cover of the book too. Just to give you an example of how interesting the people are in this country. There are hundreds of different ethnic groups, over 800 or so languages spoken on this island nation, and let's just get into it because it's so interesting. So as you can see, Papua New Guinea is located on the island of New Guinea. It's located in Oceania, and it has this border here with Indonesia. So Indonesia has this half of the island of New Guinea, which is also called Papua and West Papua. And then this is the independent nation of Papua New Guinea. A little confusing, but you'll find out why all the names are what they are in its history. So, I'm going to start off with, I suppose, the islands. Papua New Guinea has around 600 plus islands. You can see all the different archipelagos here. The largest islands are right here. This is New Britain. This is New Ireland. And this is Bougainville, which we're going to talk about a lot in its history. Just keep this in mind and note how far away the Bougainville Island is from the mainland. It's technically part of this archipelago of the Solomon Islands, but it's part of Papua New Guinea. But you're going to find out all the information about that in its history. Down here, it's not labeled on my map, but these are the Trobriand Islands. There's some pictures of it in the book here, so I want to make a note that those are the Trobriands. But the mainland here is on the island of New Guinea, and it's a very interesting one. You can see it borders the Bismarck Sea, the Solomon Sea, and the Coral Sea. And right here, this area is known as the Torres Strait. It belongs to Australia, and there's lots of islands in this area that belong to Australia, and some belong to Papua New Guinea. And a lot of the native peoples that live on these islands are Torres Strait Islanders, a type of Australian Aborigine. But that's just like a little thing to know. It's very, very close to Australia right here. So the mainland up here is really dominated by this big chain of mountains. And yes, we are in the Pacific Ring of Fire, so a lot of these mountains are volcanoes, same with the mountains here in New Britain. The tallest mountain is right here. It is Mount Wilhelm. And if you're a history nerd like me, you see Bismarck, Wilhelm, like, wow, that's two very distinct names from a very distinct part of German history. You're going to find out why in its history. Just wait. The largest city of Papua New Guinea is right here. This is Port Moresby, its capital. And as you can tell by its location, it's a big shipping area. And it's very important to its history and economy. But as we move inland, most of this area over here is very, very thick rainforest. A lot of it is still unexplored. There's no roads or anything. It's all very remote. And we'll go into it in its history. I don't want to spoil anything, but it's an absolutely gorgeous jungle with lots of interesting creatures and plants and indigenous people still living their traditional ways of life. Up here in this part is more of the fertile farmland area, and down here is a lot more swampy and wet, things like that. this big river up here is the Sepik River. You can see it flowing down. The Fly River is also over here, but it's not shown on my map. But this region up here is known as the Sepik region, and it has a big delta down here. Very important river for its geography, very important for the people that live here. And I believe that's all I wanted to mention for geography. Like I said, this book will show you a lot more of what it looks like on Papua New Guinea. Absolutely gorgeous, amazing place. So let's get into its history. So the first humans would have arrived on the island about 42 to 45,000 years ago. Agriculture would start to develop around 7,000 BCE. And around 500 BCE is an event known as the Second Migration, when the Austronesian peoples moved into the area, mingled with the peoples here, and it created the jumping off point for a lot of Melanesians and Polynesians to head out and explore the islands out here and start communities and cultures and things like that out in Oceania. And not much else is known about this period in history in Papua New Guinea. That's pretty much the gist of it. I mean, we know lots of other cultural things because they've survived to this day, but nothing really about actual, factual history. It's all very mysterious. So, in 1545, a Spanish explorer sailed by. His name was Inigo Ortiz de Verdes, and he remarked that the coastline of the island reminded him of the coastline of the Guinea territory in Africa, so he named the island New Guinea. That's the name. And not much else happened on the island there in terms of colonization. The only real main thing that happened in its last 1,000 years of history was that they sparked a trade connection with China, or the Chinese people. You know, the name of the Chinese culture changed all throughout history, so the ethnically Chinese people would have traded with the people on this island, and they traded bird of paradise feathers on here too. Very valuable. Even to this day, it's a very important bird. Well, there's lots of different birds of paradise, but very beautiful birds, beautiful plumage. So that was pretty much all that we really know about what was going on in Papua New Guinea. A lot of Europeans, mainly British and Germans, arrived on the island to explore it, but they couldn't explore it. It was too thick, too jungly, and they could only bring what they could carry, which would last them a few days, and they couldn't get very far through the trees. So pretty much no exploration of the interior happened until airplanes were invented that could airdrop supplies down to the explorers. And I'm jumping ahead a little bit, in the 1930s, when a lot of the interior started to actually be explored by outsiders, they made contact with tribes who had never had any kind of outside contact. And it's really interesting to think that that was still going on in the 1900s and the 20th century, still finding new peoples. But anyway, like I was saying, the Europeans were coming by and claiming things. Obviously, the British had a big claim on Australia, a lot of the regions down here, so they started to snatch up this area down here. The Dutch were all about what is now Indonesia. They called it the Dutch East Indies, so they claimed this half of the island. You can tell whenever there's a straight line like that, that's a treaty agreement. So that was the Dutch agreeing to a border. Like they won't cross that line. And then the Germans in the late 1800s, once Germany became a thing, it wasn't Germany until then, they got the itch to colonize big time. So they got territories in Africa, mainly like southern Africa, and they wanted a lot of territories in the islands out here. And a lot of the good islands, like the Spice Islands, had pretty much been claimed by the English and the Dutch. So they were just snatching up pretty much anything that they could find. So they had claimed this half of the island, hence the Bismarck Sea and Mount Wilhelm. Like I said, very like big figures in early modern German history. So that's what it was. In 1884, German New Guinea was established, and down here the British declared a protectorate called British New Guinea. And in 1905 it was renamed to the territory of Papua, pretty much the agreed upon name of the whole area of the island. And in 1906 that territory was transferred officially to Australia. So Australia controlled this. And of course, like Britain controls Australia, Australia controls the island. So technically on paper it's owned by Australia, but Australia at this point is still pretty much in the pocket of Great Britain, even though it was independent by that time. But anyway, details. Then World War I happens. Australia invades German New Guinea, takes it over in 1914, and after the war they established the territory of New Guinea, which they also claim. And then World War II happens. The Japanese invade the north here, take over parts of it, and the New Guinea campaign was a major conflict between the Allies and the Japanese. Huge battles in this area to claim this land. And there's still a lot of, like, I don't want to say like graveyards, like what's the word for when it's like a military, like, memorial grave site for many British soldiers and for many Japanese soldiers and many native Papua New Guineans as well. It was a rough one on the island, as you can imagine. All the Japanese occupied islands were pretty rough. But anyway, the war ends. Japan surrenders. A lot of Japanese soldiers got kind of like left on some of the tiny islands out here, and they weren't notified about the Japanese surrender. So when the Allies came by to claim it, they were still fighting, even like months after the war had ended, because they just didn't know. Very kind of eerie. Imagine hearing that. Anyway, so it became, back under the control of the Australians / the British. And Papua New Guinea, like a lot of other countries after World War II, said, no more claimings, no more occupations. We want to be independent. So that was granted on September 16th, 1975, and it officially became Papua New Guinea, just combining the two names. And it became part of the Commonwealth, which is like, I still always try to describe the Commonwealth. It's still a strange thing to me. It's like a club of countries that used to be occupied by the British, and they still recognize Queen Elizabeth II as their like sovereign, like their queen, but they're independent. It's interesting. But the country included the island of Bougainville, which I think is an interesting name because it's a very French name, right? You can see lots of different French names in this area. The French never really got a hold on the area. They did try, but the British were just too strong at that point in history. So the British had a tendency to claim lands that used to be claimed by like France or Spain and completely mispronouncing them. So Bougainville is a victim of that. It's supposed to be Bougainville, but it's now Bougainville Island because it's British. So Bougainville Island didn't really identify with the rest of Papua New Guinea. It's much more culturally linked to the Solomon Islands, which I've already covered on my channel. Very kind of like Pacific Islander, whereas Papua New Guinea is a lot more tribal, like jungly rainforest kind of culture. Not so much like sand and beaches, more like rainforest tribes, It's So very different. And they asked for independence. There were protests for independence. There was a whole secessionist revolt in 1975, right after independence was declared. But Papua New Guinea said, nope, you belong to us. Mostly because Bougainville has a lot of copper deposits and gold as well, which Papua New Guinea was exploiting for profit, of course. And the people of Bougainville were none too pleased about this because it was damaging their environment, damaging their water supply, and they weren't receiving really any of the profits from the mining. Eventually that led to a full-on civil war that went on for 10 years from 1988 to 1998. At the end of it, it was decided that Bougainville could be an autonomous region within Papua New Guinea, and they would hold an independence referendum later on down the road just to see how things would go. They did that in 2019, and over 98% of the people of Bougainville voted for independence. So that is going to officially happen in 2027. Bougainville right here is going to become its own country. That's so interesting that we know a new country is already all set to go. It's just, preparing, using these years to set up its own government and I'm sure a constitution, everything like that. You need time to establish that. So this is going to be a whole new country very, very soon, in a couple of years. I think that's so cool that we already know, future countries that are going to happen. Just the geography nerd in me is really excited about that. So we'll see how that plays out in the future, but in a nutshell, that is essentially the basic history of Papua New Guinea. There have been a couple of bumps in the road in terms of protests, volcanoes, earthquakes, typical things that people in Oceania and the South Pacific deal with. But, it's a pretty solid country in that these people are united in their differences. What they really have in common is that they speak a form of pidgin language called Tokpisin, which is also spoken in the Solomon Islands here. And they love football too, like soccer, being a former British area, of course. So that really brings people together in this country with vastly different cultures and languages. So let's take a look at this book so you can see some of these cultures. So interesting. So right off the bat, we have some children here, and as you can see, they have blonde hair. That's not dye or anything. These Melanesian people have a gene that gives them blonde hair, and apparently it's the only people outside of Europe that have naturally blonde hair. He's eating some sago right there. You're gonna see stuff about that, and look at this beautiful, can you see with the clear? There we go, this beautiful statue. That's really cool. So look at this tribal group here. Incredible masks and costumes, and you're gonna see more about these later on in the book. So this book is so cool. Here is some of the Highlands here in the center of the country. Big, beautiful mountains. It's very, very green, isn't it? And here you can see more of life inside of the rainforest. You can see pretty, it looks like they're cooking here. Little houses along the water. Big old mangrove tree. Some of the gorgeous jungle up on the mountains. Looks like there's a little farm down here. Here's the Sepik River. Winding through the rainforest. Look at it go. Winding. Here's a volcano blowing its top. Pictures on that page. Here's a picture from Port Moresby from the port in Port Moresby. And this is in Madang, which is in the northern area here. It's a lot of conflict during World War II, so here's a memorial for that. Here's a little village. It's feeding time for the piggies. And here's one of the many bird of paradise bird species. Gorgeous plumage. Some of the beautiful coral and sea life surrounding Papua New Guinea. Here is one of the, let's see, this is the Bitapaka Commonwealth War Graves Memorial. A very solemn place, of course. And here's a depiction of life before the Europeans arrived. And this is a European drawing of how they saw people living in Papua New Guinea. Interesting. And here are the Europeans arriving in Papua New Guinea doing what European colonizers did best. There is also instances of blackbirding in Papua New Guinea, which was very sadly pretty common in this corner of the world over here, where like Australians, like the British living in Australia, among other areas, would show up in villages and be like, hey, we have a job opportunity for you working in this plantation. You're going to really prosper. It's going to be great. And then they essentially kidnapped them and made them into slaves. A really terrible moment in history for the people here. But anyway, a more like busy day. There's some Europeans right there. It looks like we're chopping wood. We're starting a fire there maybe and doing some cooking. Here's a picture from World War II, some soldiers there. This is Prince Charles, as in like the Prince Charles from England, on the day that Papua New Guinea officially became independent. And here's a tribal person. Here's village, looking out over the beautiful horizon there. So here are some Tari men in their full costume, face paint, and they're outside the Parliament building here. Really gorgeous artwork there on the building as well. This is a council house, kind of like a city hall in a way, for like the smaller parts of the local governments. Some men in more modern clothes here, and a chieftain, and this is from the Trobriand Islands out here. Still a very tribal place, right? This is Sir Michael Samari. He was the first president of Papua New Guinea and has been re-elected, not like in a row. He hasn't been like a dictator or anything, but he's been re-elected multiple times. Here's another former president, Sir Julius Chan. Look at this. Let's see what building this is. It says it's the Papua New Guinea Bank Building. Isn't that gorgeous for just a bank building? That's beautiful. And this person here showing off some woven fabric at the market. Here is some mining going on and some drilling of some oil. That's pretty much how Papua New Guinea makes most of its revenue. And this guy is doing some fishing. What has he caught? Oh, it looks like he's getting ready to go fishing. He hasn't gone fishing yet. He's preparing his net. Little supermarket right here. This person is tending to their plants. Kind of looks like lettuce, I think. And this is the flesh and seeds of palm oil fruit, which I've never seen before. I've never seen the flesh of it before. Look at this. Gorgeous waterfalls. Pew, pew, crashing down to the land below, making the river flow even faster. Beautiful. Here's some more coral, which kind of looks like this coral's been bleached a little bit, doesn't it? That's pretty sad. And this is a glacier It says this is in Indonesia, so the Indonesian part of the island, but the higher mountains in Papua New Guinea, especially Mount Wilhelm, actually gets snow. So even though this is like a glacier, it's pretty indicative of what Mount Wilhelm can look like sometimes. Here's a little village built over the water here, probably like a fishing village, you can imagine. And this is what used to be one of the biggest mines in Papua New Guinea. It's been, I think it's still in use, but it was pretty, like, very dangerous to the environment. And here's some logging going on here. Look at this. This is a Goodfellows tree kangaroo. Since it's so close to Australia, they're probably connected, like part of like Gondwana back in the day. You can imagine that a lot of animals would have hopped back and forth. So there's lots of like marsupials and things like that in Papua New Guinea. Oh, this is a really sad picture of some children playing in some trash, but at least they've got some pretty cool Pokemon backpacks. I love Pokemon. I think he's got a Pokemon backpack too. So at least they're pretty cool kids. I hope they're wearing good shoes. So this is actually in the UK. Greenpeace member protesting the timber logging in Papua New Guinea. What's it say? It says, repeat offender Blair's trashed another rainforest. That tells you how old this is. Look at this picture. Look at these fantastic faces. What a great photograph that is. Holding the camera, or putting the camera on the ground, having them all look down. I really like that. Look at that smile. And look at this little photo too. Getting some shelter, the rain with a big banana leaf. Just like fantastic photography in this book. Pictures like this. There's a lot more coming, don't worry. It says here that they've gathered some firewood. And right here, it's just people having a discussion. It says, just hanging out. And another holy man from the holy tribe with their fantastic headdresses, and tribal face painting, and jewelry. Amazing. So this person has some like beautiful scarring on their back. Sort of like a more intense kind of tattoo, right? I don't want to skip a page. Let me turn the page, please. There we go. See, look at this photo. Absolutely incredible, right? Look at this person's jewelry and remarkable face paint here. It looks like, what are they doing? It's a mirror holding up, painting their lips. And then there's a big bird of paradise headdress right here, ready to go. Just an incredible photo. I love that. Oops, I wiggled the camera, my bad. Let's see, these, looks like there are lots of children here, but they've just gathered some yams. Is that what it says? Bum. Oh, girls from the Torres Islands bringing yams back home after the harvest. And very sadly, this is a line of people looking for employment. This is in Mount Hagen, which is like a city in the more central part of the island near Mount Wilhelm. A very more like foresty looking house there. It's really neat. All built of wood and stakes and palm fronds, things like that. Now, I love this picture too because I won't let you see the caption. What is this a picture of, right? Is it jewelry? Is it collectibles? Is it hand-me-downs? What is this a picture of? This is a picture of all of the currency that is accepted in Papua New Guinea. You can see some bills here, but this is one of the main ones right here. It's a kina shell. You can See right here too. And it's the more traditional, obviously, form of currency. But everything you see here can be accepted as currency. So, Whisper Audios, ASMR, Charlotte, your next currency video. Here you go. That's remarkable, isn't it? Here is a big old mini truck, it says, transporting some people around. There's not a lot of infrastructure in terms of roads. I mean, you can see right here, this is made out of like wood and rocks, right? And some steel beams here holding up the bridge. But this picture kind of shows why there's not a lot of interior infrastructure, because you just can't build through the big mountains and the thick jungles and everything. This looks like a scenic viewpoint. Another really neat picture here. It says they're parading through the land. Very interesting. Lots of interesting clothes and headdresses. And looks like weapons they're holding too. Here's another woman doing some weaving. Beautiful textiles, gorgeous colors. And here's a supermarket. What's on sale right now? Pringles. Awesome. I'm not a big fan of Pringles. I like, in America they're called Lay's. In the UK they're called Walkers. I like those chips. Very sadly, this is a person suffering from HIV. And this person's taking care of them. And these people here are learning some silkscreen printing. Look at this building. This is a spirit house. So neat. So intricate. And here's another great picture of some tribal men. It says they're carrying some poles. Look at these little figures on the top. That's really cool. Let's see what else we have. Now, there's some people here getting baptized. Christianity is the main religion in Papua New Guinea. The roof of a spirit house up here. It's so neat. And this is a shaman, it says. And look at this. What do you see? Painted skulls. So, quite a few cultures in Papua New Guinea pre-colonization did practice cannibalism. It's officially outlawed. It's illegal in Papua New Guinea today. But from what I've read, one, the people don't like to be associated with cannibalism anymore, but two, it's not a law that's really being enforced. Like, there aren't investigators making sure that people aren't practicing cannibalism. It's just like a no-no in Papua New Guinea society today, basically. But, I mean, a lot of these tribes do live out in the middle of nowhere, not being contacted even by, like, tourists or anything. So, who's to say, honestly? This is a big old mask. Isn't that neat? I hate to say it, but it kind of looks like Resident Evil. If you know, you know. But it is a neat mask. This guy's reading the newspaper. And this is a teacher teaching a deaf student some words. There's an English lesson going on here, writing their vocab words, their chalkboards, working hard in school. And this is another great photograph. So look at what's happening here. There's some men. It says they're coffee planters. And this is the money they've made. So they've taken it to the bank to get it counted and probably deposited it into an account. Look, he's got some money right there. He's like, I have my money to deposit. And this is just a really neat photo. I like these guys looking very, traditional in like a modern bank. That's a neat photograph. I don't want to skip any pages, right? Meanwhile, this guy's just chilling out watching TV in his living room. This man, it says he's bundling up newspapers to be recycled. Look at these statues. Oh, those are so neat. Oh, beautiful carvings. And you know, they're all very meaningful in their own ways. I like this one. That's cool. Some more beautiful art. It kind of looks like a combination of like Aboriginal kind of art, like Dreamtime art, mixed with like Polynesian, Melanesian, all of that kind of cultures, like mixed all together. I like that. Let's see. So these people are playing Kundu Drums, which are a very important instrument for Papua New Guinean culture. Here's another Huli man. Very beautiful headdress and face paint, and he's playing a flute. Meanwhile, here's a little rock band performing. This guy is a wood carver, it says, examining this really neat statue. That's so cool. And this guy is posing by the mural here. It looks like it depicts a lot of the like traditional tribal like dancing costumes. You're gonna see this one in a minute. I know this looks a little goofy, but you'll see. It's probably my favorite one. Look at this mask. Very like I want to describe it as like tiki, right? It really like conjures that image, like South Pacific, the movie. And look at this. This is called a bilim, I believe. It's a kind of like hat scarf that you can put things inside and it expands to a huge size. So it's basically like a backpack, but the straps are on your hat. I like that. And they're very, very colorful as well. We're playing some chess here. Really universal games for fun. And another universal moment, just having a nice hangout by the water with your family and friends. This guy's eating a betel nut. He's got it there. And these are betel nuts right here. It has a little bit of, I mean, you feel a little bit when you chew betel nuts, you know. And now look at this photo. I like this one too. I like a lot of these photos because it looks like he's playing baseball, right? He's got a baseball bat. He just hit something. But this, it looks like he's also playing cricket. So maybe he's playing cricket, but instead of the cricket, what is it, a mallet? A bat? Is it a cricket bat? I think it's a cricket bat. He's using a baseball bat. I don't know much about cricket, but this is definitely cricket. So whatever he's playing, he's having a fantastic time doing it. And here's volleyball. It looks like they're on the beach too. Really fun place to play volleyball. And some more of the Huli tribe here. Full regalia, playing their instruments here. It must be an incredible sight to see and hear. And now, these are the medmen from the Asaro. So they carve these huge, like, helmets. They're more helmets than masks, right? And then covered their bodies in mud. And it looks alien. It looks so neat. That's so incredible. I think it's awesome. Another fantastic photograph. It's almost a Where's Waldo kind of picture, but this is, what does it say? This is crowds gathering to catch blah, 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 blah. A sing-sing, it's called. Kind of like parade, festival. So many colors, you see so many feathers, so many hats, so many like banners. It's such a beautiful photograph. And I like this one too. It says they're doing the tapioca dance. Just so many different cultures and customs all throughout this island. Just countless of them. Look This is a Lakatoi out on the sea. Very beautiful. And here are some more Kina shells. It says they're exchanging them. The ceremony, they lined up all these Kina shells. Because remember, this is one of their main forms of currency. Yams, sweet potatoes, are a big staple diet. The Europeans brought them over. They were here to stay. And another fantastic photograph. They're celebrating a yam harvest. Oh, I love this picture. You could just tell that they're very, very happy. Doing a very happy dance there. There's some fishies here. This is kind of part of the warning for the food chapter. There will be some cooked, dead, skinned animals in here, so just be warned. But here's another wonderful picture of a family enjoying their meal together. Just another very universal thing, right? So here's a big ol' piggy being roasted over the fire. This person here is doing a very traditional form of cooking where you dig a hole, start the fire in there, cover it with all the leaves, and then you put the food on top of the leaves to cook it. Let's see what else we have here. We have a crocodile being skinned. So they are, it says they'll sell the hide and eat the flesh. I've never seen a picture of a crocodile skinned. And this person has a bunch of fish for sale. And I believe that's it for the dead animals. So I believe so. Yeah, so these people are harvesting sago, which is the like interior, like the meat of like the trees they have there. It has multiple uses, but it was like the main staple food of the islands before the Europeans brought the yams. And there's some starch here. Very, very important, very staple food. And here's a bunch of yams and sweet potatoes, the other main staple, which, I mean, could you have a better staple than yams? So here's some chicken and coconut cream. Sounds yummy, but even more yummier, sweet potato biscuits. Yum, yum, yum. And then, lastly, we have a map of Papua New Guinea. Bougainville's right here in the crease, but it'll someday not be a part of Papua New Guinea, so I suppose that's okay. But you can really see the mountain chain here, the rivers, and all the islands. So that's going to be it for tonight. Wasn't this wonderful? I loved researching this country. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you found this video relaxing and educational, and I hope that you have a very good night. Good night.